Yo, guys, what is going on? Welcome back to the locker room. We are back for our annual mock draft for the 2024 draft season. Joining me today, returning again for the mock draft, we have the World Not Professionals podcast. We have Mike Mitchelson and Chase Crawshaw. How you guys doing today?
Hey, doing great. Thanks for having us.
Appreciate having us on as always. It's always a good time.
Yep, not a problem. And then joining us once again is my father, Shawn Mitchelson. How we doing today?
I'm doing well. Glad to be here with the experts so I can learn a little bit more about the draft.
Right.
Yes, sir.
All right, but before we get into the mock draft, guys, we have two things that I don't know. Have you guys talked about the Lions jerseys yet? Chase and Mikey?
I don't think we have we? No.
All right, I want to get your thoughts, Chase, on the jerseys. How do you like them?
Well, I am a very big fan because I love the Barry Sanders, like heyday style jerseys. So kind of being able to get that nod to that throwback. I love the blues. The whites, honestly, between the two, primarily the home and the away, I think I actually like them better. And I'm generally like a colored jersey kind of guy, but I don't know, like something about the whites, they just look a lot better than the Lions have in the last couple of years. And then of course, I mean, the black jerseys, I've been begging for them for years. The stories that's pretty funny of Dan Campbell, begging Rod Wood for them, and Rod Wood said once you win the division, and he gets rewarded. That was awesome. So I'm super happy that those are back to. All in all, I mean, I think they hit it out of the park. It's probably the best set, including the classics as well. Probably the best set of like new jerseys the NFL's seen in quite some time. I could be wrong there, but maybe people disagree, but I've seen a lot of people that have been in that same boat as me.
Yeah, I absolutely love the homes. I think they look awesome. It was weird because when I saw just like the Fanatics leak, I thought the white was my favorite. And then as soon as I saw it on the players, the blue went to my favorite. So it was just weird how that happened. But yeah, and then Denver got new jerseys, which I don't know about you guys, but I'm not the biggest fan of.
Yeah, I mean they're like they're fine. I mean they're better than the previous ones. I really hated that like that whole style that was them, the Titans and whoever else. One more team still uses them. I really hated that jersey style. So I'm glad that they changed it. But I saw like a mock up on Twitter where on the shoulders they kind of like instead of like the weird kind of striping that almost looks like a Chargers striping, like they did like mountains instead, and I think that would have been so much cooler.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, the Broncos jerseys, I mean, the classic or, the alternate classic, whatever it is, that looks great, obviously. But I messaged the boys when I first saw them, and I'm like, these look like AAF or XFL jerseys. And then sure enough, Big Game Bengal, he tweets out, it looks like the UTSA Roadrunners, which hard to disagree. I don't love the regular home and away jerseys that they came out with.
Yeah.
I agree. I think they look like UFL jerseys. I don't know. If go back to the Orange Crush, keep the Orange Crush. I don't know. I agree with you guys. I think they're pretty bad, but the Lions jerseys are sweet. I think those are they're really good. I like all three schemes that they went with.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. I mean, the Lions jerseys look great. I think the white's my favorite by far. Chase is lying though because the Bengals. Have you seen those jerseys?
The Raiders exist also.
Yeah, but you're saying
Yeah.
recent releases for
Okay,
jerseys.
I see. I see.
Even if the Raiders were recent, they wouldn't be there. But
Fact.
they're limiting to.
Wait till we get our all black, then we'll have a discussion.
I'm waiting for you
Basically
guys to get a
are all
quarter.
black. Yeah.
Black pants, black jersey, black helmet. Then we'll be all right.
I like it.
And then sticking with Denver, will this affect the mock draft today? Because Denver's got their franchise quarterback now with Zach Wilson. What are you guys' thoughts on that trade?
Second overall pick, the guy's going to come in and light the league up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Stay tuned for Denver's pick.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't love Zach Wilson come his draft year. I thought he was worthy of a shot. That's fine, but like not the number 2 spot. I had multiple guys over him, and experiments kind of failed. So hopefully they're not bringing with any expectation to come and like actually compete for a job. Hopefully it's just like hey, you never know type thing. Like it, we'll see what happens in this show. Of course, we'll see what happens in a couple of days too. But I hope they kind of like look to go with an actual quarterback at some point.
Yeah, I don't think they gave up much for him, so I think it's just roll the dice. Hey, he comes in and does something, and he does, but I don't think they're expecting much.
Yeah, that's fair.
And can we just talk about the downfall of that draft class? I mean, we thought 5 guys going in the first round, going to be just amazing players. You had absolutely athletic freaks like Trey Lance and Justin Fields. You had Trevor Lawrence, the bona fide, dynasty type of player. And then Mac Jones, Zach Wilson, guys that kind of raised their draft stock in their final year. And now we're looking at it. Trevor Lawrence, maybe borderline. Could he sneak into the top 10? Maybe. But probably going to be sitting between that 11 to 20 range as quarterbacks in the NFL. And then the other 4, they've all been traded and are looking at backup positions right now.
I think Fields could get the start because Wilson's garbage. But yeah, what an underwhelming class. I mean, I was a real high on Trey Lance, and that guy just disappointed.
Chase.
He just never got a fair shot. I will live and die by that sword. That if he was giving everything went so against him, it just really sucks. I mean, like his team not playing football in the COVID season, then him having an injury by the time for it comes to finally start. He went like 3 years without like throwing a meaningful football. It just it kills the development. So like I feel bad. I think he really got a short end of the stick. And hey, who knows? He is still super young. We can hope. I'm still gonna hold out hope.
Yeah, maybe he'll do something in Dallas, but yeah, gonna be tough for him, I would say. But with all that conversation out of the way, let's start the mock draft. As Chicago is now on the clock, and I honestly have no idea who you're gonna take here, Mike. So it's gonna be interesting.
Yeah, honestly, super easy pick. Since they got rid of Justin Fields, and I will say to kind of drag this on a little bit, I talked about it in our quarterback rankings that I was kind of being infected by the media, thinking Caleb Williams, oh, he's not as good as what everyone thought at the start of the season. Sure enough, after watching film, I'm like, oh no, absolutely take Caleb Williams. I'm even a Justin Fields truther. And after the Bears season was over, I'm like, they should keep Justin Fields and use those picks, trade back, use multiple first round picks, really stack it up around Fields. But watching film, I mean, it was pretty clear. It's pretty obvious. Caleb Williams is the guy, and he's going to be the first overall pick to Chicago.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. It's not just that he makes these spectacular plays. I mean, all around, even when you look at the basics for a quarterback, he is still the best in the draft at that stuff. And he has the bonus of being an athletic freak and making these amazing plays and being able to improvise and be that playmaker that you need in the NFL. And on top of the basics that you need, I just don't think there's a question on who the best player in the draft is, especially at the value of the quarterback position.
Yeah, I mean, like it's really not particularly close on anybody else you could even debate here. I mean, if for whatever reason somebody tries to get cute with it and say somebody else, I mean, I think it really is just kind of like engagement farming at that point. It's pretty clear, clear as day that he is that dude.
Yeah, and you see a lot of people do that where some guys like project a number one for such a long time that they just get sick of it and they don't want to see him there. So they just make up some random excuse to say how he's not the best. And that frustrates me a lot because it's just like he's there for a reason and there's a reason he's there. And just because he's been there a long time at the number one spot doesn't mean that he should be knocked down for it. And so Caleb Williams, I don't think there's a doubt he's the best player in this draft.
Yeah, I agreed.
Moving on to number 2 is me with the Washington Commanders. And this is another interesting spot. And we all know that they're probably going to take quarterback. And another thing with the draft odds of J.J. McCarthy skyrocketing from like 20 to 1 all the way down to, I believe, 8 to 1 now. It's pretty interesting. So I can tell you J.J. McCarthy will not be coming off the board at this point in the draft. But as you guys saw if you saw my quarterback rankings, you saw that I did indeed have Drake May as my second best quarterback. But I did just recently watch more film on Jaden Daniels, and I like Jaden Daniels a lot more now. He bumped up to my number 3 quarterback. He is not my number 2 yet. I still have Drake May ahead of him, but for fitting that Cliff Kingsbury system, I think that they need someone who's going to improvise. And I think that through improvisation, and I think that Jane Daniels can be a lot more accurate. I'm going to take Jane Daniels here. I just think that he fits Washington's team better.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I go ahead, Mike. Go ahead, all you.
Jaden Daniels, I mean, this is a guy that skyrocketed up to my number 2 upon film watching. And I know a lot of people, as they watch more and more on him, they start to bring him up more, similar to how you mentioned. And I think Chase may have had Jaden Daniels as his 3 originally, but this is a guy who I surely thought he'd be my quarterback 5. And then after I got through film, it wasn't a question for me. He was undoubtedly my number 2. He's an absolute playmaker, and I'm excited to see what he can potentially do in reviving this Washington team.
Yeah, he comes in as my number 2 now as well, but it's really close between him and Drake May. Could go either or. Me, if I were kind of doing just based on what I think's going to happen, I think Drake May is going to end up going to. I feel like Dan Quinn's going to go more of what he wants compared to what like maybe Cliff wants, and Dan Quinn, he can get his Matt Ryan type player with Drake May. Maybe that's what he's thinking here. I don't know. So I kind of feel like that might be the route, but I think Jaden Daniels is the correct route just because I think he's got a much higher upside. And I think both have kind of equal bust opportunity. Like I can see a path where both these guys don't work out in the NFL, whereas maybe I don't see that with Caleb Williams. So I'm all for them taking the higher upside play. As someone where you imagine Jaden Daniels could be. I don't want to imagine like a hybrid of Cam Newton and RG3, like that could be his absolute like ceiling. As you're gonna reach that, I don't know, because both those players at their peaks are pretty damn good players. But if he can be that hybrid type of player and be a consistent guy in the NFL, I mean it's a home run pick.
The only thing that I do question with Jane Daniels is that arm strength, and I just think that compared to guys like, I'm going to compare him to JJ McCarthy here, but as far as velocity on throws, I feel like there's sometimes over the middle of the field where he makes a throw to where it's a little behind a guy, and with the speed of the NFL that it could be picked off. So his arm worries me a tiny bit. It's not a huge issue, but he really shocked me on how much more accurate he was. And that was a big thing. I think he throws a very good deep ball. I question his arm, and he needs to learn to slide because he took some big hits in college. I think we saw it with Anthony Richardson this year. I mean, he just needs to learn to slide because he took some huge hits in college that I just don't think he'll survive in the NFL if he does not slide.
Yeah, and he's much skinnier than Richardson,
exactly.
too, so definitely needs to get that down.
100%. Okay, now moving on. This is going to be pick number 3 as the New England Patriots are on the clock, possibly taking a quarterback here. Chase?
I mean, I don't know how you go anywhere else if you're the Patriots. I think that'd be
Come on.
Yeah, definitely not. I think it's Zappy and Brissett there, if I'm not mistaken, and I'm going to say no to both of them. And it's got to be a pretty easy choice here. The guy who was my number 2 for a while ended up as my number 3, but still, pretty close with Jaden Daniels. Drake May is going to come in and probably fit more of what the prototypical Patriots quarterback just feels like it should be. I know, obviously, we spent the last 20-25 years with Bill Belichick there, spending much time with Tom Brady, so you don't imagine someone like Jaden Daniels running all over the place. So I think Drake May offers someone who has the upside with enough of an athletic profile where he can still run the ball, but there is some signs of him, being able to make the off-platform throws, being able to kind of, make some big desperation plays. I just have some questions because sometimes decision making, isn't the greatest for me. I think there's gonna be a little bit of consistency issues. So hopefully the Patriots do a really good job in grabbing some talent in this draft. Bolstering the O line, hopefully grabbing him at least some sort of competent receiving core, because he's going to need the weapons around him. He's going to need help around him early on if he wants to succeed. If he doesn't have that help, he doesn't have the supporting cast. I mean, it could be someone who just busts and not really too much fault on his own, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can go ahead. Sorry.
I mean, I agree with you. I think Drake May is incredibly talented. He's got a super high ceiling. But the Patriots, they might arguably be the worst quarterback destination in this draft class. So to see a quarterback that I think is going to rely so heavily on his surrounding pieces, go to the worst place with not a lot of pieces, it is a little scary for me. I hope nothing but the best for Drake May, and I'm really hoping that he's going to be one of our top quarterbacks in the league for years to come. But when you look at the offensive line and the weapons around him, it's going to be a tough go his first couple of years, and hopefully he can stay strong.
Yeah, building off what you said, Mike, it's really between both Daniels and May. Whoever does end up going to New England, I just feel like is like destined to fail because they have almost no one on that team compared to Washington, where you at least have someone like Terry McLaurin who's going to make plays at some point. And it's going to suck for one of these quarterbacks because one of them is going to be stuck in a very, very bad situation. Unless the Patriots shock us all and either trade out or take Marv, I do think that's highly unlikely. But unfortunately, I like May a bit more, so I'd like to see him go to Washington over Daniels, over Daniels, but it's going to be tough for whatever quarterback in the draft goes to New England because that is just not a great place to go.
Yeah, and I'll say this real quick. If the Patriots decide to go Marvin Harrison Jr. over a quarterback, I'm quitting fantasy, all fantasy leagues. I will no longer play in them because I have multiple Marvin Harrison draft picks. And if he goes to the Patriots with Bailey Zappi, I'm done.
Boy.
100% get your frustration there.
Yeah, it's scary to even think about because like it would. I think everybody in the world would be in absolute shambles. I think Patriots fans might even be in shambles, to be honest. It's like because they know they have the talent, but they're just stuck with nothing else to do.
Yep.
Exactly. It's kind of similar with Jefferson in Minnesota right now.
Yeah, you're not kidding. Future Detroit Lion.
All right, now moving on to pick number 4. The Arizona Cardinals are on the clock, and Shawn, you are up.
Well, I think it's gone pretty much as we expected. First 3 QBs right off the board right away. Cardinals have a ton of picks in this draft. Um, Obviously, they're looking at wide receiver. They have a lot of holes. They got a lot of picks that'll fill those holes. I don't think there's a question. I mean, Marvin Harrison is the best wide receiver on the board in my book. I love his height, his size. That's the reason I would take him over Neighbors. He got that. He's like 6'3". I just think he is the best receiver on the board. They need playmakers because they really don't have many playmakers in the wide receiver position. So the Cardinals will take Marvin Harrison Jr.
Yeah, he actually comes in as my number 1 rated prospect in the draft class, Marvin Harrison. So no matter where he went, it's considered proper value for me. I mean, he's someone I feel comfortable taking first overall. So to be able to get him at 4, I mean, that's huge for the Cards, and especially now that the Cards they kind of have 2 options at quarterback. Kyler Murray, he's kind of showing some signs of maybe he isn't him, but you're kind of locked into him at that price tag. But even if he goes down or he starts playing horribly, you can still hope that Desmond Ridder can come in and kind of potentially save the day. So just have as much talent around that team as possible. Just get all the receiving talent you can, all the talent on the ground that you can, everything that you can offensively. Just make it as hard as possible for these quarterbacks to fail, and they should be all right. So grabbing Marvin Harrison, I mean, it's probably the only other slam dunk of the class outside of Caleb Williams.
Yeah, he's a bona fide stud. I've got him as my number 2 player overall, only behind the aforementioned Caleb Williams, and him going and playing with Kyler. That would be fun for fantasy. So that's what I'm rooting for.
Yeah, 100%. I think that this is a great spot for him to go. He's my number 3 prospect on my big board, but I think he's all around great. The only thing that I knock him on is his willingness to block, but let's be honest, in the NFL, does that matter? So overall, I think he's going to be great with Kyler. And with all these picks, the Cardinals could be a sneaky team if they hit on these picks. Getting Marv and whoever else they decide to get in the draft, if they hit on these picks, they can be a sneaky team who could have a decent rebuild in the future for sure.
Absolutely.
Okay. Now moving on to pick number 5, the LA Chargers and Jim Harbaugh are on the clock.
Yeah, I wanted to see if the Vikings were interested in moving up. Maybe I can give away my terrible quarterback, mine as in Jim Harbaugh's, to the Vikings at number 5. But there was no interest, so we're going to stay put here, and we're going to take My number 4 player on my draft board, wide receiver Rome Odunze out of
Woo!
Washington. Love Rome Odunze, and when you don't have Mike Williams, when you don't have Keenan Allen, you need to get someone in there that actually has a pair of hands, unlike Quentin Johnston. So go out, get the guy with potentially the best hands in the class. I mean, it's got to be between him and Marv, but this guy is an absolute stud. He's going to win jump balls 70% of the time. He's going to be great in the red zone, and he can do a little bit after the catch as well.
Yeah, same boat here. Is exact play that I would have made. I mean, outside of Marv, like it's pretty clear that Roman Nunze is him. I mean, his route tree is impressive. Like he runs a full route tree and he's successful in all routes. So you mentioned, I mean, jump balls. It's like he just comes down with them. I mean, he's just a physical presence. There's really not too much flaw in his game. It's just he just maybe a slight degree below Marvin Harrison's kind of what it is. I mean, I see this as being a guy who can be a true all-pro receiver, for like many seasons in his NFL career. Like the talent's just there, and pair him with Herbert. I mean, we can see some damage.
Yeah, I like the pick. He actually bumped up to my number 2 as far as my receiver rankings
There we
because
go.
it was actually not because he got better. I've always been a big fan of
No.
Odunze. It's actually because Neighbors got worse. Saw a lot of
Mm.
inconsistencies when he's in Neighbors game when I was watching Jaden Daniels film today. So that bumped up Romo Odunze. But as you said, he's a guy who's going to go up and get the ball. That's the perfect guy for Justin Herbert to play with. It's going to be very exciting to see, and maybe we'll see if Justin Herbert can actually win some games now there in LA.
Yeah, who knows?
So now, moving on, we got pick number 6 with the New York Giants. And this is a tough spot for the Giants. I really don't know where I'm going to go here because the Giants, you're missing a quarterback. You don't really have a lot of pieces at the receiving core. But one of the big things that I think that you have to do is you have to build in the trenches. So I'm going to get a generational talent here, in my opinion, and take Joe Alt at number 6.
Yeah,
Joe
I mean,
Alt. What a guy.
it's valid. I mean, Joe Alt is I got 3 players in this draft class that I would take first overall to base on pure talent. It was Marv, Caleb Williams, and Joe Alt. So I think that's the correct choice. If you wanted to go receiver, if you're I know you said you dropped Malik Neighbors a little bit. I still think Malik Neighbors would have been fine value there. No issue at all. But Joe Alt is the screaming value, and it's just gonna help improve Daniel Jones, kind of help improve that offense, be a lot more steady. So, I like it for the Giants. I hate it for the Titans.
Yeah, I mean, Joe Alt is the man there on the offensive side of the ball, or the offensive line side of the ball. But the one thing with this pick is that just means you're giving up on Evan Neal. You're ready to move on from him, and a former first round pick. It stings a little bit. He hasn't played up to the level we thought he could have coming out of the draft. I think he was hovering around my second or third offensive tackle in the class. That one was with the guy who went over to Carolina. I can't remember his name right now, but that guy was my number 1. And Evan Neal hasn't played up to his ability. So you go out and get Joe Alt, and having him and Andrew Thomas as your 2 bookends, that's going to be a great core to move forward with.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see what the Giants do with the situation at quarterback, because not looking great, I must be honest. So,
Yeah.
So now we are going to be moving on to pick number 8, and it's just such a stinky team in the Tennessee Titans. Chase.
Yeah, so as I just kind of briefly mentioned there, it's tough for the Titans to miss out on Joe Alt. It was just right there. It was just kind of like the I caught you $1. Oh, you almost had it type of thing. Just so close. So they're gonna have to go with the number 2 offensive lineman on my board, who I still love. Is one of my guys. That is Tyler Fuaga. I just fell in love with his tape. I mean, he is one of the I just like watching like he's just an attacker on the offensive line. I mean, like he fights, he punches. I mean, he like the way he just maneuvers in space and kind of like forces a defense like like a defender to kind of not engage him because the defender is going to try to get around him, and he's just like mirroring him so perfectly. I mean, there's not a ton of offensive linemen that are fun to watch, and Tyler Swag is just fun to watch because he just does it so well and does it in a slightly unique way. So if you're not going to get Joe Alt, you might as well get the next best thing. I think that this should be a pretty easy Titans pick. Whichever one of these 2 guys are available, go around to the board and grab them.
I like Fuaga a lot, and going tackle makes a lot of sense for Tennessee. I do have two tackles above Fuaga in my rankings, but I think regardless, any of those three, you're looking at a top 15 pick regardless. So if that is kind of your fancy, and Fuaga a little bit more of an aggressive player, a little bit better in the run game than a couple of the others, then go for it. And we know the Titans, they've been built on that run game forever. They now are without Derrick Henry. So do they continue to go that route? Do they maybe let it loose a little bit more with Will Levis? We'll have to wait and see. But regardless, Fuaga, a solid pick.
Yeah, back to what you said, Mike. I also have two people above him in my offensive tackle rankings. I just think one guy's a little bit better in pass blocking. That's why I have him higher. But I think Fuaga's an awesome player. He's going to be a player who can play nicely. He's so fierce. He's a bulldozer. He's awesome in the run game. I like the pick for Fuaga a lot, and I think he'll fit in nicely there in Tennessee.
And that stings you guys over with the Raiders because you wanted him, didn't you?
I would have liked him, but yet again,
I want him.
he,
The guy's an absolute mauler. He's a beast. I want him at 13, but we'll see what happens.
All right, now moving on to pick number 8. The Atlanta Falcons are on the board, who could be in the realm of losing some picks here due to the tampering situation with Kirk Cousins.
We were hoping to gain some picks, but nobody called us to trade back. So we're going to sit here at 8. We got multiple needs. We're looking on the edge. We're looking at corner. There's a wide receiver that's still out there. I didn't expect to be there, so that's also an option. But I think they need to bolster up the D line on the edge, kind of slash linebacker, and they're gonna select Dallas Turner.
Okay. Interesting. Dallas Turner is very talented. I do like Dallas Turner. A little rich for my liking. He comes in at 22 on my draft board. I know that there's a lot of people that have him higher than I do. So it is what it is. I think edge rusher is probably the right move for them. Whichever way you want to go, so be it. Maybe Latu is more of my liking for edge, but at some point the Falcons have drafted an edge rusher. I mean, I've been saying it for like 5-6 years that they need to draft a high end edge rusher, and they just aren't doing it. So like it feels like it's kind of now or never.
Yeah, and I gotta say, if they were to take an offensive weapon with the 8th overall pick yet again, I might lose my marbles because they've done that twice now, including a 5th overall pick in Bijan Robinson, and we know exactly what Arthur Smith did with those guys. Absolutely nothing. So I'm happy to see them going defense here, and it seems pretty across the board, pretty consensus that a lot of people have Dallas Turner being that first defensive player off the board. I'm similar to Chase, where I don't love Dallas Turner as much as consensus. He's actually my 7th ranked defensive player and my 3rd ranked edge. However, he's still a talented player, and he's one of the younger edges in the class. So you're going to have a lot of time to develop this kid and to bring him into already such a young core that team is, with AJ Terrell, and then of course all the early first round picks that we see on the offensive side as well. It's going to be a fun player to see.
Yeah, I'm kind of right in the middle between all you guys. I'm not as low on Dallas Turner as Chase and Mike are, but I'm not as high on him as the number 8 pick. But I honestly still think it's a good pick. You address a need, and I agree. You don't need to take. You have another offensive weapon. You have enough there. You have Bijan. You have Pitts. You have London. You've done it the past 3 years. You got Kirk Cousins. Now you can build that defense and really build a powerhouse team and a young team on the defense side of the ball. So I like the pick a lot. And then moving on to number 9, Chicago is back on the board after selecting a generational talent in Caleb Williams.
Yeah, I was fully planning on going offensive lineman here. However, how the draft played out, Malik Neighbors is sitting here. Malik Neighbors is my number 8 prospect in the whole class. And they've got a stud in Darnell Wright on the right tackle. Absolutely love that guy when he was coming out last year, and he proved himself to be a pretty solid player. Now the left side, a little bit more questionable, but if you were to surround Caleb Williams with Malik Neighbors, DJ Moore, and Keenan Allen, how can a player ask for any more? So I'm going to go with Malik Neighbors. I think that this is a guy who's going to be able to do all kinds of things with the ball in his hands. He's going to be an exciting player to watch with Caleb Williams. I think if maybe we go Drake May instead of Caleb Williams, then I think offensive tackle would be more beneficiary. But with Caleb Williams and the way he can move in the backfield, I mean, it's set another level. Let him scramble a little bit, and you got 3 wide receivers that are bound to get open.
Yeah, I mean, with the Bears being a division rival, I want them to make the wrong pick here. Yeah, I think kicker would be a really great first round choice. But in all actuality, the way this plays out, I mean, Malik Neighbors kind of feels like the slam dunk guy. Especially you could argue maybe Brock Bowers could be someone that could be fun too, but Cole Kmet's already there, and Cole Kmet's looking like a really nice NFL tight end. So no need to mess with that process. Just grab Malik Neighbors, someone who is an elite receiver, somebody I still have as being worthy of a top 5 pick. If that happens, then like I don't think it's too much of a reach. So Caleb Williams comes in with an automatic, free talent on top of the guys that are already there, like Cole Kmet, and then having DJ Moore is huge too. So it's great pick for the Bears, great pick for Caleb Williams, but very frustrating as a Lions fan.
Yeah, I was actually going to want to get your thoughts on that, Chase. If this draft goes the way that it's going for the Bears, is it gonna be scary for the Lions going against them? And do you think they're going to be a threat for the division?
I mean, Lions are still top dog in this division. Let's not begin to get twisted here.
Whoa. Jordan Love does exist. So
yeah, Jared Goff is better. Great, perfect. I'm glad we're having this conversation. I'm glad that the conversation just ended like that. Nice and easy.
It just didn't.
Yeah, because I mean, we're talking about
miles.
We're talking about an elite quarterback, and we're talking about Jordan Love as well. So that's all I need to say. So the Lions are top dog in this division. The Bears are gonna, do their best to create some rumblings. I think it's gonna be, probably another year. Just let the young guys get a little more, adapted to the NFL, and then we'll kind of see this division, especially if Vikings can hit on a quarterback, which you're gonna have to guess they're gonna go for in this draft. If they can hit on a quarterback, I mean, it could be probably the most well-rounded division in the NFL, which sucks because just right when the Lions start getting good, everybody else is going to get good too. It's dumb.
Yeah, but overall, if this happens for the Bears, I mean, Caleb Williams then has no excuse. He is a solid O-line with arguably could be the best receiving core in the NFL. So it's going to be very interesting, and I would love to see that as a number 1 pick dynasty owner to get Caleb Williams with all those weapons. So that's going to be
they have a talented backfield too. So like everything's there in the offense.
Exactly.
So there is really no excuse to fail.
100%. Now moving on to pick number 10, we have the New York Jets. And Chase, what fantastic quarterback that's not named Jared Goff are we just talking about?
We've only talked about one fantastic quarterback,
which was Jordan. Thank you,
Jared Goff. Yeah.
So Jordan Love, who did he sit behind?
Aaron Rodgers.
Okay.
He did. So
please.
When I look at this draft, I'm like, there is a quarterback who needs to sit for a year, and why not sit behind a guy who's kind of has a similar play style, but not really, but maybe he can adapt to it. So we're going to go ahead and take JJ McCarthy here.
Yeah. Oh, that's too funny. That's awesome. That makes me so happy. I hope that happens so badly because that would just be icing on the cake for Aaron Rodgers going into what's going to be probably his final year in the NFL, having a team still not draft any offensive talent from him. That was his whole career in Green Bay. If they do it again, don't give him anything to use. Oh, that would be so freaking funny. I'm all for it.
You know what's crazy to me is Olu Fashanu, in my opinion, the best pass blocking, just in general, the best pass blocker in the class. Obviously, Joe Alt's awesome, but I think Olu, just a different level of anchor. That would be really key for a guy who just tore his Achilles. But nah, skip on Olu Fashanu. Go with the 6th ranked quarterback in the class. That's something, And I'm not a Jets fanboy by any means, so it doesn't really bother me at all. But I think a lot of Jets fans would lose their mind, maybe potentially find where you live if you were the GM, because we know Jets fans are crazy. Interesting, to say the least.
You got to look towards the future. That's what the NFL is now. So we're looking towards the future, and Aaron Rodgers can teach JJ McCarthy the ways. And soon, in 4 years, JJ McCarthy might just be in the Super Bowl. So we'll never know.
No, I mean, unless he's a backup and Aaron Rodgers is still playing, but.
All right, JJ McCarthy to the Jets. Now moving on to pick number, was it 11? Minnesota.
11.
Yeah, Minnesota's quarterback is taken off the board possibly, Chase. Were you going to go, JJ?
Yeah, so in reality, what probably should have happened here is figured out some sort of move to move up, because I think the Vikings are going to end up trading up in this draft. They went and they got that second first round pick for a reason, and I think it's to have extra capital, kind of see how the draft board falls, and go and get a guy. So didn't really happen. We didn't make any trades in this draft, at least to my knowledge at this point. So now you're just going to kind of go with what's on the board, and I got quarterback's just the way it's got to be. And my next best quarterback, my 12th ranked player in the draft class, is Michael Penix. So that's what we're going to lock in, because I think Michael Penix is going to come in and be a very steady NFL starting quarterback. I know that teams loved his pro day. He ran in the 4.5s. He wrote a very powerful story in the Players Tribune. I think it just came out yesterday or today, basically telling teams don't look at it as a bad thing. I have an injury history. Basically what it's done is he's proven these last 2 years that he's overcome an injury, and you can see that his body can bounce back from that injury. Whereas other people, if they haven't been injured yet, you don't know what's going to happen when they do get injured. And then it's a nice, powerful testament to make. I love it. I love the stance that he takes, and me being a giant Michael Penix stan, I would hate to see him go to the Vikings, because I do think he's going to be a stud in the NFL. But that's just how the draft board falls.
Yeah, I mean, I like Michael Penix a lot. He's my quarterback number 5. So I guess perfectly placed when you look at how many quarterbacks have gone off the board. But JJ McCarthy was my quarterback 6. So I do have one above Michael Penix, but I mean, the guy is a fantastic passer. And I think personally his floor is probably Tua. So when you can get a guy whose floor is what another team's dynasty quarterback is, you're feeling pretty good about that, and I think he's going to have a lot of fun stretching the field with JJ and Jordan Addison.
Michael Penix actually comes in as my quarterback 6, but I still like him a decent amount. I still got a first-round grade on him, so I'm not saying it's a bad pick at all. You fill a need at quarterback, which is a very important position. I just think that we're the other quarterback that's still available, and like guys like Jay and Daniels, when they were pressured, I really didn't see them panic. There's a lot of times where I saw Michael Penix where he'd get pressured and he'd kind of just throw the ball and kind of hope. And with the jump ball, which if you got Romo Dunze, I don't blame you. He's probably going to catch it. But I did see that a decent amount, and I just don't know if that's going to translate as easy in the NFL. But he does still have very good floor. He's got a rocket arm, which you love to see. So Michael Penix fills the need at quarterback there for the Vikings. And in this situation, you're in win now mode for the Vikings now with Michael Penix. So I like the pick a lot. So yeah, Michael Penix goes to the Vikings. Now,
I can't argue with that pick. I think Penix maybe a little bit. I was thinking maybe middle to late first round, but when you got such a big need with the quarterback position with the Vikings, I mean, I still think he can be a franchise quarterback. So I think that's a good pick.
Yeah, that's ultimately what it comes down to, is like he should be in a relatively safe path. He's someone that should has a realistic chance of being able to be a franchise type guy. And when you have someone like obviously Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison, and specifically Jefferson here in the situation where he's there's been some rumors like he might want out because he doesn't have a guy to throw him the ball. You got to find that ASAP, because you can't lose out on a guy like Jefferson. So if Penix comes in and he's that dude from day one, then all of a sudden you're keeping your franchise receiver and you have a high end quarterback.
100%. Okay, now moving on to pick number 12. It's going to be the Denver Broncos, who actually just got their franchise quarterback. So what will Denver be doing?
This is exactly why they picked up Zach Wilson. They knew all these quarterbacks would be off the board. No, they still definitely need a quarterback. I just don't see a quarterback at number 12 with what's left on the board. I'm not going to say Bo Nix at this point in the draft is the way to go. They got all kinds of other needs. They need to get more athletic. They could go on the D line. They can put somebody else opposite Surtain. So I mean, there's a lot of studs here that have fallen, and I think we want a weapon, and I'm not going to let this athlete go any further. And they may have Greg Dulcich, but Brock Bowers is going off the board at number 12.
Woohoo! That
Oh
hurts me a
boy.
little bit. I'm really hoping in real life he drops all the way down to 18. Unlikely, but this guy's an absolute stud. He's a top 5 player in my draft class, and I think he is. Last year, I had Sam Laporta, Dalton Kincaid as number 1 and number 2. I had them both as late first round picks, and we see both of them played out very nicely in their rookie year. Brock Bowers crushes them when it comes to his draft grade. He might not be just an unreal athlete like the Kyle Pitts. He might not be the best blocker in the world like we see out of like a TJ Hawkinson or a Michael Mayer, but every single thing that he does is great to elite, and I think it's going to translate so easily.
Yeah, I mean, he's just a dog, and I think he's kind of foolproof no matter where he goes. So it doesn't matter. The system doesn't matter how he's going to be used. You can use him in any single way. You can line up on the line. You can put him in the slot. He was used at H back a couple times at Georgia. I mean, and he had success everywhere. So it's a solid pick. It definitely that crushes a little bit of hopes and dreams for a potential early success in terms of fantasy football. But I can respect the pick.
Yeah, this is what he's that good to where I would be upset if he went here because I would not. He's a player I want to root for, but unfortunately, if he went to Denver, I just could not do that. Yeah, like you said, he's great to elite everything, and that's just awesome to see at the tight end position. And awesome pick. He's going to plug in very nicely at the NFL level. Now moving on to pick number 13, my team and my father's team, Las Vegas Raiders on the clock. Don't screw us over, Mike.
Yeah, this one's a little bit of a tough one for me because there's a lot of holes on this team. And I mean a lot, like holy cow, a lot of holes. um, but I think you could go quarterback here, and Bo Nix is my number 4 rated quarterback in the class. I really like him. I think he's a bit of a distributor, kind of like a Drew Brees type of player. Now, I don't think he's going to be Drew Brees, but that's the style of play you could see come out of him. Distribute to Devontae Adams, Jacoby Myers, Michael Mayer. But I don't think I'm gonna go that route.
No.
I could also go like Troy Franklin, just give him a terrible wide receiver. Um, I think I'm just gonna go Olu Fashino though, because I think you guys need some help on the offensive line. I think Olu Fashino is undoubtedly a top 10 pick in my eyes, and this is a guy who's gonna be able to give a little bit more time and space to Aiden O'Connell or Gardner Minshew, whoever it is. And I think this pick might be a positive one for Chase because I don't think Aiden O'Connell is a world burner, and Gardner Minshew might just get a chance.
So I don't remember where I saw it, but there was like something. I hope it was fake. I don't remember where, so that's why I don't know for sure. But they said that if Aiden O'Connell were in this draft class, the Raiders would view him as a first round pick worthy player, which is very
Huh?
funny to me. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I remember seeing that on Twitter, and I was like, I just gotta assume it's not real, so I kept on scrolling. But I haven't forgotten it because I thought it was absolutely hilarious. So hopefully that's the case, and they think AOC is just the guy, and the Raiders can kind of keep living in, terrible NFL team purgatory. So, but going with Fashanu, it's probably valid. Like I could consider taking next year as well, but I mean, it's just a team that's not really super ready to kind of roll anyway. So if they want to wait a year and hope to get a higher end quarterback or hit somebody in the free agent market, might as well just kind of build up around as much as you can.
I like the pick. I really wanted you to take Bo Nix because I love Bo Nix. That's my dream scenario for the Raiders at that spot. But I think that you do go Olu. I really like the pick. You build from the trenches, and I think Gardner Minshew. I mean, if Aiden O'Connell plays, we have a big issue. But I think Gardner Minshew should play, and Gardner Minshew almost took the Colts to the playoffs last year. Sure, he had Shane Steichen, but overall, I think that's a great pick. And I 100% agree that you don't need to sell the farm if you're the Raiders in this draft class to go get a quarterback. So I appreciate you did that. I like the Olu pick. It's very safe, and it's going to be a great pick.
Yeah, I think I'd be running to the podium to get Fashanu. I think offensive line is where they need to go. I want Fuaga, but Fashanu is there too. I'm all about it. I don't want Dix here. I think we can trade up maybe back into the end of the first round with a team maybe like San Francisco or something and come back and get our quarterback. I still think that the needs of this team are plenty across the board that we don't need to go get that quarterback right there and not have him turn out to be the franchise quarterback. So I'm all about getting the offensive line built in the trenches and get better that way.
Yeah, and I'm curious with you guys being Raiders fans, I feel like if there's any quarterback in this draft class that would most remind Raiders fans of Derek Carr and the
100%
stint he
different.
had with Oakland, maybe it is Bo Nix. And is there any bit of worry there on your guys' end, knowing how the Derek Carr situation played out?
Not at all, because my pro comp for Bo Nix is Derek Carr with legs and a mobile version of Derek Carr. So I think that
Okay.
his ability to escape the pocket is far better than Derek Carr, and he's not going to get happy feet in the pocket and just crumble into a ball. So
I don't hate Knicks, but I prefer Penix. So if Penix can be there at 13, I might be a little bit more apt to go that route, but I'm not with Bo Nix at this point. Yeah, but we don't want to screw up the quarterback position again. And
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw Gardner Minshew's stats, but they're the same as Trevor Lawrence.
Well, there you
Gardner
go.
Minshew's him.
Can you believe that?
And Trevor Lawrence is not him.
No. So I think that you can. Are the Raiders going to win the Super Bowl this year? No. So
whoa.
they don't have to come out of this draft with their franchise quarterback if they can pick up other places. Just a thought.
No, I 100% agree with that. Now moving on to pick number 14, Derek Carr's team now. The New Orleans Saints are on the clock.
So what the Saints are looking at here is I think they were looking for O-line from the beginning. I mean, that's exactly what they need. Fashanu going off the board is a little bit of a stinger, but there's plenty of tackles out there. There may be other options you can go with, but I'm looking at Amarius Mims. I think he has the highest upside, but I just think he's a monster on the end. My worry is he only played, a minimum amount of games in college, but I think his upside's there, and I think that's where they're going to go.
Yeah, I think Mims only has like 500 total snaps in college, which is kind of
Right,
crazy to
that's a
think
big
about.
worry.
But I have Amarius Mims as my number 3 offensive tackle in the class. I mean, the upside is unbelievable. I mean, the guy's got movement like no other. He's also got, well, except for Joe Alt, of course. But we all know how Joe Alt pans out in this class. And then he's got some incredible size on him as well. So to have him as a bookend and continue to build him up, and hopefully the Saints can get a new quarterback in here eventually, to have Amarius Mims be that bookend for that young quarterback of the future, that would be huge for him.
Yeah, I've got Mims at my number 5 offensive tackle, somebody that I have as a first round pick, but someone that I would take in the back half. I would have went JC Latham here going O-line, someone who I do have ranked as the top half of the first round pick, but can't really hate on the Mims pick just because the upside is so enticing. What he did in that small workload is it's super promising. So can't hate on it. I mean, he has all the traits to succeed. We'll just kind of, we'll see what he does with more reps, with more wear and tear going against, the stronger guys.
Yeah, Amarius Mims' potential is off the charts. And when you were talking about taking a tackle, I was glad you went with Mims because I heavily prefer him to the other guy. But yeah, like Mims a lot. I think he has that upside. And even if he didn't play that much snaps, he's able to get the attention of us through that short snap count. So that can also be looked at as a positive in that way. So I like the pick a lot. And Amarius Mims, number 14.
Landon, I think you and Shay should fight real quick about JC Latham.
Well, we'll get there. We'll get there.
Okay, good.
We'll get there.
Oh boy.
Now moving on to pick number what is it, 15, we have Indianapolis Colts, and I am up. And looking at the draft board, Colts, a lot of positions in need. You get an Anthony Richardson back as your quarterback. We've already seen, what is it, three receivers off the board? Or am I? Yep.
Yep,
Yeah,
3.
Three receivers off the board. Michael Pittman did just re-sign there, but overall, I really do want to get Anthony Richardson some more weapons. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and take my number 4 wide receiver in this draft class, and that is going to be Brian Thomas out of LSU.
Yeah, that's a pick I can get behind. I think receiver. I mean, really, just offensive weapon is kind of the route here. I think I saw some sort of rumor that maybe they'd try to make a move to get Bowers at some point in the draft, and I think that could be a good one. I like Jelani Woods. There's a tight end, but in reality, is he ever going to be like a stud? Probably not. So if you can get Bowers and you can really kind of diversify, have elite options at all aspects of the ball for the Colts, that would be huge. But with that not being the case, Brian Thomas sitting here, coming in as my number 13 player in the class. Again, my wide receiver 4. Ends up coming out to be just about at value, and I like the pick.
Yeah, and Brian Thomas, a little bit of a different take here from me. I've actually got him as my number 43 player in the class. I've got him as wide receiver 7 for me. Just a little bit too one-dimensional for me when it comes to him, playing at LSU, and I'm really happy didn't fall to 18 because I see a lot of people taking Brian Thomas with the Bengals pick there. My preferred pick here is stay on the outside, but on the other side of the ball, go something like a excuse me, a Quinion Mitchell out of Toledo, maybe a Terrion Arnold out of Alabama. I think helping the secondary would be huge for the Colts. But I do understand the appeal to go wide receiver because Michael Pittman and who is it, Alec Pierce? Not sure if they're going to be taking the world by storm by any means.
Yep. So I think that that's going to be a huge thing, is getting Anthony Richardson all the weapons. I did look at offensive line, but I think that the offensive line position is solid enough for the Colts. As I was also thinking about trading up to try and get Joe Alt, but thought about it. Don't need to trade the whole farm for a piece that is a key piece, but it's solid enough there for the Colts. So pick 15 is Brian Thomas. And now moving on to pick number 16, which is going to be the Seattle Seahawks with Chase.
Here's the problem with the Seahawks pick. I did a bunch of mocks and I never took the same player once. I think there's a lot of routes to go here. I don't think there's necessarily a perfect fit kind of with who's gone off the board and with who's left based on my rankings. So it's more of a maybe fill, like a positional need the most diverse way possible is kind of my thought process here. And, the best way to do that is go with Jackson Powers Johnson, the center out of Oregon, but he has played guard in college. He came into college as a guard, actually. So he's got the kind of the inside versatility. And I think that's what the Seahawks need to do, is just continue to kind of build up that O line a little more than anything else. Just make it so Geno Smith has no reason to not succeed. He's got the talent around him. Just make sure he can stay upright. And if he can't sling the ball, then that's going to be on him at that point. So just based on the way the board falls, just might as well go with the most diverse yet still upside pick there is.
Yeah, and I'm really not a fan of that because I've got the Jags next, and I was hoping JPJ was going to be there. He is easily the best interior offensive line in the class, and I think he is going to be similar to Landon Dickerson, where he starts at the guard position and eventually takes on that center role. But this is a guy who has way higher of a ceiling than Landon Dickerson, in my opinion. I think this guy moves like no other. And then he was the heaviest weighing interior offensive lineman in combine history at, I believe, 334. And he was still moving like he was. So absolute huge fan of JPJ. Just wish he would have got one more pick so I could have taken him with the Jags.
Yeah, I really like the pick here. You're establishing that offensive line. Again, I think Geno Smith is trash. So I think that this is just giving him more reason to show the world that he is not good by giving him more time just to show how bad he is. But it also, what I like that it does, it gives Kenneth Walker a better chance at establishing the run game there in Seattle, which I would like to see. I think that's going to be key for their offenses to really get the run game going. I think if they can do that, they might be able to win some games. But I like the pick a lot. Now moving on to pick 17, Mike, you are up with the Jags.
Yeah, well, we were just talking about it. Trevor Lawrence, maybe not necessarily the guy over there in Jacksonville. I'm still seeing Bo Nix out here on the board. And so with that, I'm going to go Quinyon Mitchell because he is my number one corner, and they need some help in the secondary. I would have liked to bolster the interior of the offensive line a little bit more. And then you look on their defensive side, secondary needs some help. Need a little bit help when it comes to rushing the passer as well. But Quinyon Mitchell stands pretty far above Jared Verse and Latu Latu, excuse me, when it comes to that defensive side. So I'm going to go Quinyon Mitchell.
Yeah, and excuse me, Quinyon Mitchell comes in as my cornerback 4, but that's with a grain of salt because numbers 2, 3, 4 are basically the same player grade wise for me. They all came so close. So it was just kind of pick your poison on that one. I can respect the pick. That's probably the biggest hole that they have. And in terms of at least what's on the board, what's kind of fitting their style. So I can get behind it.
Yep, me too. I like it a lot. I like Quinyon Mitchell. He is also my number one corner as well. I have a lot of I believe I have him at around 22 on my big board, a bit lower on the corners. But I like Quinyon Mitchell a lot. I think that he came out of nowhere, and I like that he's from Toledo. So I really like the pick. He's great in coverage, and I think that the Jags is a great fit for him to go to.
Can't argue with that pick at all. I mean, I think him and Arnold are 1 and 1A. You can get that guy at 17. I think he's a ferocious corner. And I think that's exactly what the Jaguars need. So I think that's an excellent pick.
All right. Quinyon Mitchell goes off the board at pick 17. Now at pick 18, we have the Cincinnati Bengals.
All right, let's not screw this up here.
There's so many choices. You got so many holes, right, Mikey?
Oh, come on.
I've been hearing this
now.
Joe Milton guy is pretty solid.
Come on, man.
Oh, Joe.
No, the board felt pretty nice for them. They got a couple needs I was looking at and hoping that would fall, and I didn't think Arnold would be there, but I'm a guy that builds in the trenches. They need trenches on the D line, and it's like 1 and 1A between these two, and I'm only gonna go with Byron Murphy because I worry about Newton and his taking plays off. So they will select Byron Murphy.
Yeah, absolutely love the pick. Maybe you saw my tweet and wanted to make me a little happy, but when it comes to Byron Murphy, Johnny Newton, and Talise Fuaga, all guys I'm sprinting up to the podium. I think both Johnny Newton and Byron Murphy are absolute studs on the interior there. We lost DJ Reader to the Lions. We brought in a little bit of help to help with the depth, but I don't think we had that superstar in the middle of the defense there. So to bring in Byron Murphy, who is great at stopping the run and can also put pressure on the quarterback, I absolutely love the pick.
Yeah, I mean, it seems pretty slam dunk, especially based on the needs, based on where the board falls. It's having that extreme diversity that you can have with Byron Murphy. I mean, it's really going to make that Bengals D line, which is pretty young, especially with Miles Murphy last year, correct? That's who it was.
Yep.
Like with that as well. You're going to have two young, nice, good get to the quarterback, the defensive lineman, and it's really going to take the Bengals a long way because that's just something that they're really going to need, to kind of succeed.
Yep, I like the pick as well. You lose DJ Reader to free agency, and what do? You draft his replacement, who's younger, cheaper, and possibly could be better. So I can't argue the pick at all. I like it a lot. Now, pick number 19 to the LA Rams. It's an interesting spot when I first saw it, but I'm like thinking about it. There's one glaring hole on this team, and that's just because Aaron Donald just retired. And I really want to Byron Murphy, but as my father said, 1A, 1B, we're going to go ahead and take Zaire, or I'll just say Johnny Newton so I don't butcher the name.
I mean, Johnny Newton, another absolute stud. A little bit older than Byron Murphy, but also a little bit more size. He also has some great athleticism. I think either way you go, these top two are unbelievable, and I would say I might be forgetting about some people, but I feel like these are the top two defensive line prospects we've seen since the Jets took who was the guy they took at like top 5 a couple years back.
Quentin Williams.
Yeah, Quinnen Williams.
Yeah, no, that's valid. It's fair enough. I can't hate on it. I get, need to replace that hole with Aaron Donald. It's even though it's a hole, it's never going to be filled. You can always kind of do your best there. So I can respect it. You could have kind of went a multitude of routes there. I think though, I think where the board is, like there's a lot of needs that the Rams have that can kind of be filled there. So whichever route you want to go, yeah, I'm not really going to hate one way or the other.
Yeah.
Yeah, as I stated earlier, it was 1A and 1B. Newton, solid choice. Like Mikey said, he's got a little bit more size. But I think that's a great pick to start to fill the Aaron Donald shoes. Definitely can't fill them yet.
Yeah,
And
that's what I was gonna get at. I'm not when I said fill the Aaron Donald, you're obviously not gonna fill that Aaron Donald spot, but you can fill the spot in regards to getting another solid player in there. You're never gonna get that Aaron Donald level production, but overall, you can fill that spot pretty nicely there with Johnny Newton.
right. And I stand corrected. I totally forgot Jalen Carter got drafted last year.
True.
But nonetheless, both of these guys are absolute studs on the interior side of the defense.
100%. Now pick 21. I feel like with Pittsburgh, you either go running back or corner every year in the first round. But Chase, who are you going to take?
So this is kind of a tough one for me here because I was hoping my hand was going to be forced one way or the other, but it really hasn't been. And there's two paths here. It's on the line again. As you just mentioned, a DB is something that's in play as well. It's one of those two, and there are guys that all really fit the kind of needs I have here. But if I had to go with one, yeah, I guess I'm gonna go O line here. I guess I'm gonna end up with JC Latham. I mean, the way things stand right now with the Steelers, you kind of look more towards the defensive back route. I mean, there's a multitude of corners. Guys I like, just like Cooper DeJean, Terry Arnold, Kool-Aid McKinstry are all still out there. But at the same time, I mean, Dan Moore on the left side of the offensive line, not great. The offensive line needs a lot of work for the Steelers. It's young and it's a bit underwhelming. I mean, having Broderick Jones on the right side is something you can build off of a little bit, but you do need somebody that can also man another tackle. And Dan Moore is just not the guy that I see as anything very special. So you might as well give JC Latham a shot. Someone who I do have some pretty decent regard for.
Yeah, I like JC Latham. I do have him as a first round tackle. I think there is some inconsistencies in his games when it comes to kind of his jump off the line. I think often he also looks like Evan Neal, who we were just talking about a little while ago. He seems to lunge a little bit, and sometimes he misses and even falls. But if he gets his hands on you, he's gonna lock you up, and I think it could be a good pick for the Steelers. I think also Trey Hendrickson can really exploit JC Latham early on. So I'm okay with that too. But I'm excited to hear what Landon thinks about this pick.
JC Latham. Thought you said Alex Leatherwood for a second when I first heard that, but
Ooh.
Now, since in the Raiders drafting, buddy. So
not a fan of JC Latham. I got him at a third round grade just off of the second. But the big issue with him is, one, I feel like he whiffs a lot. He's starting with the positive. He has great strength. His pass block did improve from 2022 to 2023. But there's just a lot of times where on double moves, I feel he gets beat on the second effort, and there's just so many plays where it just looks like he is not trying, and that is just such a big issue for me. And it's either at the start of the play, let's say there's a swim move and he'll block it well, but then after 2 seconds of blocking, he thinks the play's over, and then they hit a swim and they hit another second move, and then the guy's getting pressure on the quarterback. There's too many plays like that where I see it, and he is one of the main reasons why that run play did not work for Michigan, as he got blown up on that run play to send Michigan to the national title game. So I don't like JC Latham. I think he's too inconsistent, and I just think that he needs to put some more effort in, I would say, in stopping those secondary moves.
Yeah. See, here's the thing. I think the upside is just too high to ignore. I mean, he's got an unbelievable size and athleticism combination. I mean, it's something that's it's rare to see. Just like 6'6", 360, if I'm not mistaken. His 40 came in at a 4.85, and that just speaks very well for his explosiveness. Obviously, you're not running straight line, too often as an offensive tackle, but it does speak well to how quick you can kind of get up and get engaged into your block. And I think that he's got a lot of strength. I think once he is engaged in a block, you're not really getting out of him. Trying to power rush, trying to speed rush. I think he holds up against all those really well. Yeah, there might be some inconsistencies and things are going to happen. He's a young player, but I really see this as being probably the highest upside of all the offensive tackles in this draft class, maybe minus Mims. I think this is someone that you can really build around.
I don't have much to say. I just got PTSD from Leatherwood, so that's all I got.
They are not the same. Don't worry.
Debatable.
I don't think so.
All right, now we are at pick number 22, and we have a trade. Miami is trading out of the number 22 spot, and Green Bay is moving up as they are giving a fifth and giving up a third and their first round pick, and then Miami's moving back to get a third in return and giving up their fifth and their first round pick. So I have Green Bay. I move up, and we're going to select a guy who I'm shocked has fallen this far, so we're just going to go ahead and rip the Band-Aid off. Give me Terrion Arnold out of Alabama.
Hard to argue that pick. I mean, Terrion Arnold's my number 2 corner in the class. I think he's more suited for the interior. I think he would be just an absolute world burner at the old slot corner position, because I'm not sure he has the true athleticism to stay on the outside. But I mean, this guy's played so well, and he's such a young player as well. It's hard to argue Terrion Arnold when he falls all the way down here to pick 21. It's crazy.
And just to make sure
I can argue as a Philly being next, I can argue that's not a good pick, but
right.
No, that's my my cornerback too. And again, it's 2, 3, 4, all pretty similar. So I think it ends up being a very nice value. Again, I hate talent going within the division, so I hate seeing the Packers trade up and make a move. I was hoping that they would just kind of stand pat and take another third round quality wide receiver or linebacker, in the first round. But here's what it is.
Then the Packers have plenty of picks to move up and make a move like that. So they still got plenty of picks to get a lot of the needs filled and try to catch the Lions.
Try keyword.
They will. Well, Green Bay goes ahead and takes the corner. So what will Philly do at pick 23?
Well, there's other options at corner. There's a couple other guys they like on the board. They always seem to like the O-line. They lost Kelsey. Lane Johnson's not getting any younger. But there's a guy that I like that's still hanging out there, and I think they could use him on the defense side of the ball, and that's Leatu Latu. And I think that's where they're going to go. They're going to get an edge rusher.
That is scary D-line.
It is. That's a ton of talent that happened to fall to a team that's already got a ton of defensive talent. So that's quite frustrating. But it is a nice pick. I mean, it'd be the highest player left on a lot of people's boards. He was the second highest player left on my board. I'll talk about that here within the next couple of minutes. But it ends up being a pretty easy pick. It's going to come in and get an immediate impact. This defense is going to be just consistently day in day out one of the hardest defenses, one of the scariest defenses to play against, especially for a quarterback.
Yeah, and that's one of the things with the Eagles and how well they've built this team over the years is they can now just go best player available. And Latu is one of the best players still left on the draft board. So it's kind of an easy pick for him, and their defense continues to get younger with the likes of him and then the two Georgia players that they drafted last year. It's looking real nice for them on that defensive line.
Yeah, 100%. Adding Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith last year, where you thought, man, this defensive line is scary, and now it just gets scarier. So great pick. Can't argue it at all. Is now Minnesota is on the clock after they acquired this trade from the Texans, I believe. So who is Minnesota going to take here, Chase?
Yeah, so in the mock drafts that I've done, it's always ended up being that one of Byron Murphy and or John Newton ended up being here, and it was like it's kind of just a slam dunk easy pick. But now they're both gone. It kind of leaves a couple things up in there, a couple potentials. But unfortunately, I'm gonna have to give them my number one DB in the class, Cooper DeJean. I mean, just too much talent left at this point. He can play anywhere in the defensive backfield. He fits any scheme, and it's going to fill any hole that they need at any given point at corner, which a corner is a bit weak at this point. But he can slide in at safety. He can like nickel, like he can do it all. I mean, he's just so well rounded. He's a great athlete. He plays the game really hard. It's a great fit, unfortunately, because I would have loved for him to somehow make his way down to the Lions, but I don't really see that happening come the actual day of the draft anyway. So Vikings get, in my opinion, a great value at number 23.
Yeah, DeJean's my number 4 corner in the class, and he is incredibly versatile. Whether you want to play him at safety, slot, or even play on the outside, he can do it all. I think this is a good pick for the Vikings, and the Lions might be hurting, and I know that hurt Chase to see his number 1 corner go to a division rival.
It's brutal.
Yeah. Great athlete. I mean, he can play, as you said, he can play anywhere. Going to plug in nice. He's going to fill whatever role you need him to fill. And that's going to be key when injuries happen. He's going to be able to play wherever you need him to, and he's going to play well there. So I like Cooper DeJean a lot. He's my number 4 corner as well. Now moving on to pick number 24. We are going over to Dallas with my father. Who is Dallas going to take?
Dallas, they need a few things, but I think the biggest need for them is offensive line. I think they just lost Tyron Smith, and they need to build up. I know they need a running back, but it's just too early at this point to take any kind of running back. A couple other spots maybe, but I think there's a tackle out there that's been sitting for a while that was blocking for Penix that I could take. But I like the versatility of Graham Barton out of Duke. That maybe he can play inside, outside, center. I think he can play almost all 5 positions. So I think that's where Dallas is going to go. Graham Barton.
Interesting. I mean, I don't necessarily well, I don't necessarily. Hey, I think it's a perfectly fine fit. Graham Barton isn't someone that like really gets me off my rocker, but I also don't think he's far. I think he's far from like a bad prospect. So I think it's solid overall. I've been seeing him kind of around this range. Recently in kind of some of the mocks and things I've been reading. So I think it's certainly within the realm of possibility.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest Graham Barton fan. I have him as a 2nd round pick, and I see him a little bit too skinny to be playing on the outside. I don't know if he necessarily has that strength, but I think that offensive linemen can be big help for the Cowboys, and it seems like whether they go a top end talent or even a guy who's not as touted, they seem to make him a good player. And so I think that could very well be the case with Graham Barton as well.
I also had Graham Barton as a 2nd round pick, but what I do like about him is he is versatile. You can play him on the outside. If you need him to, you can slide him inside, and I think he will succeed. So I think that the Cowboys will make it work with him if they do decide to pick him. So I like the pick. Now pick 20. Pick 25. Thank you. Did belong to Green Bay, and now it is Miami's pick.
Yeah, and I moved down because Miami did not like how the board fell to them. They liked looking at interior defensive line, maybe go get a Johnny Newton, a Byron Murphy. Obviously, if Brock Bowers for some reason were to fall, that'd be a good one. Offensive tackle or even offensive guard to find someone in there as well. That'd be nice for them. However, literally all of those were gone by the time they got there. And so we were looking at just best available. Obviously, Leatu Latu, Tyrion Arnold, both guys that I would have loved to take with that 21st pick. But I didn't see a massive fall off when it came to jumping down the board a couple of slots. So I'm going to take my number one edge in the class, Jared Verse out of Florida State. I think this is a guy who is an absolute bull. I mean, the guy's got an incredible bull rush. He uses his angles terrifically. And to pair him with the likes of, excuse me, Bradley Chubb and Jalen Phillips, I think it's going to be a nice guy to have there. And to have him and Jalen Phillips for the long haul, for the future, that's going to be a nice duo to have.
Yeah, I mean, coming into the year, he was talked about a lot as being the next coming, like being the number one edge in this class, locked and loaded, someone who can be top 5, top 10 worthy, and still had a very good season, still see the talent, but maybe didn't quite live up to that hype. Came in as my number 2 overall edge, someone that I have ranked as 20th in the draft class. So comes out to being a solid overall value, about a kind of a range that I think he should go in, maybe a range that some people think might even be a little bit lower compared to expectations, but I think it ends up being a nice grab, just kind of getting someone who's probably the best talent available, at least compared to what maybe some of the needs are. I certainly don't hate it.
Yeah, I mean, I like the pick. Had him at high second round grade. I mean, one more bump, he could have been a first round grade for me. He's my number 3 edge rusher. Very strong, does a lot of things well. I just think that this seems to be an issue with a lot of players in this class, missed tackles in the run game, and I think sometimes you will just lose sight of where the runner's going as far as attacking the run game. So I think he can improve his run game a little bit. Now moving on to pick number 26, we have Tampa Bay on the clock.
Yeah, and I'm not necessarily loving anything right here as Tampa Bay. So I'm going to kind of blow up the board a little bit, and I'm going to go get some competition for Baker Mayfield. I'm going to take my number 4 quarterback in the class. Give me Bo Nix. I think Baker Mayfield played well last year, but is he that guy? I don't know if he is. I think Bo Nix, he's an excellent excellent playmaker and a point guard that will just give every single player the ball. And so I think Bo Nix could come in and steal the competition away from Baker Mayfield. I think you could have gone elsewhere, maybe like a Troy Fatanu, but I'm going to go Bo Nix.
Yeah, there's no chance this one's happening. Sorry, you don't give a 3-year deal to Baker Mayfield for some decent coin to a quarterback who's already 24 going to his draft year. To try to make this replacement, it doesn't make much sense. To try to cook him until he's 27 when Baker's contract's up, it doesn't make much sense. If anything, like if you're gonna go off inside the ball, you could go offensive lineman. Maybe if they're worried about losing a receiver down the road, maybe they can go receiver at just add to that talent pool. I don't see a quarterback falling into these plans at all, so I don't think it's going to happen, and I disagree with the pick.
Yeah, and it's a good thing that it's not a predictive mock. It's a what would you do mock, and everyone should know my opinion on Baker Mayfield by now. If you haven't been listening to the Locker Room podcast or the WNP podcast over the last like 5 years. Not super high on Baker Mayfield, very high on Bo Nix. If I was the GM there, I'd be very happy to get a franchise quarterback here.
That's the type of draft pick that gets you fired, though. After
it's not though.
It
But
doesn't
is.
get
Bo
me
Nix is a
fired
stud.
because
Listen,
he wins it.
But listen, if you're saying, unless you're saying that I don't even know who the GM is down in Tampa, but unless he got fired immediately after signing Baker Mayfield, that's when you do get fired. Because if you sign Baker Mayfield to that contract and then immediately take a quarterback at 24 years old in the first round, that's a gets you fired deal, because it's a lose-lose situation.
I didn't sign him, but I did draft Bo Nix.
So basically, what you're saying here is that they signed Baker Mayfield and you immediately got fired and they hired you, because like that's you
I don't I don't know if you know how this whole like mock draft situation works, but it's as if you were on the day of the draft placed into that draft room as the GM. So
Yeah.
yes,
So
I did not do the free agency moves. I came in because this is how the game works, and I went and drafted a quarterback that I think is significantly better than the quarterback they currently have.
yeah, but that's not the whole point of this. That's just saying like I could draft any player. I think this player is better than what the whoever it is can have, but they have bigger needs. But he's better than this, so I'm going to draft that. Like it's not how this works. Like you have to view this as you are the GM of this team based on what you have
Yes,
on that roster
I
now
am.
and the moves that you have made in the offseason. And that's an offseason move that you have made was signing Baker Mayfield.
I didn't
There,
sign Baker
you're
Mayfield.
you're not getting hired to be a GM for a day and then going home. Like it doesn't
Look,
work that way.
here's the thing. When you look at the rest of the board, there's nothing there that's exciting. So I'm going to take a Bo Nix, who is going to elevate my team and elevate my offense. And if we have to deal with cap space, whatever, so be it. But I want a guy who's going to reset my team, reset my offense when it comes to, the projection for the next 5 years. And I think Bo Nix does that.
I mean, it is what it is. I just think it's a mistake.
I see both sides of the story here. I get obviously the side of you just signed Baker Mayfield, but I agree. I wouldn't have signed Baker Mayfield, but I get it with the cap situation. But also, I think Bo Nix is just that good of a player where I actually think this is a good pick of the value you're getting at. You give competition to Baker Mayfield. And if Baker Mayfield sucks, bam, Bo Nix, you can play in right away. Screw the cap right now. Bo Nix, you're getting one of the best players in the draft, in my opinion.
And this isn't a Bo Nix hate by any means. I got him at my 21st ranked player. Like it's someone that I think is worthy
So
of getting
great
drafted.
value.
It just doesn't make sense to this team.
I don't think teams need to make sense to have success. So
That's a
Ask the
weird
Raiders.
statement, but all right. Well, no, the Raiders don't make sense and they fail. So perfect.
There you go. All right, now moving on to pick number 27. That is going to be the Arizona Cardinals. My father, you are on the clock.
They got, again, we talked about they got plenty of picks. We've already taken Marvin Harrison Jr., so one of the best players in the draft. Um, Again, still Cardinals have plenty of needs, but they do got plenty of picks. The board, pretty solid amount of guys out here that could still help them. And I think they need help at the cornerback position. And I'm going with speed, and they're going to go with Nate Wiggins.
really like that pick. Nate Wiggins is my third corner in the class. He's a true outside guy, a lot of speed, a lot of length. There is some room for improvement. I think he needs to bulk up a little bit. Needs to be a little bit tougher on the point of attack, but I think overall this is a guy who's got a lot of upside.
Yeah, overall, my 31st ranked player in the class in my sixth corner though. So it's fine. Like I don't think it's like all great screaming value. But I don't think it's bad either. I do think there's a bit of upside there. I just there's other guys on the board that I like better. One guy specifically at this position, and then just a couple other guys in general. But I don't think it's necessarily like a bad pick by any means.
I like the pick. Nate Wiggins is my fifth corner, but I still got him as first round grade. So I still think you're getting good value here. Solid corner, great speed, good in coverage. I like him a lot. That moves us to pick number 28 is Chase. You are now on the clock with Buffalo.
So the position's pretty obvious. Like we're going wide receiver here, but there's just a multitude of ways to go, and I don't know which way is the correct option. Like we can go bigger guy with speed, we can go a smaller guy with speed, we can go a bigger guy who doesn't have the speed. We can go with just an absolute dog, or we can go with a guy that Mike thinks shouldn't have even gotten a college scholarship. I don't know which one to go with here. It's kind of tough, but I think I'm just gonna make the on the spot decision and go with Lad McConkey. Throw the slot machine just in that Buffalo offense. Let Josh Allen not have to necessarily make so many Hail Mary type plays. Having Diggs and having Gabe Davis last year, those are guys that you're looking to get the ball to, like all medium to deep range. And I think it would really benefit having somebody that he can get the ball to in that short to intermediate style range, and just let them create a little bit, because he has to play so much hero ball with the way that the offense is run with the talent that they used to have. So if they can kind of transition that a little bit, kind of tailor his game to stop so many desperation type plays and just let it be, a few more checkdowns and let McConkey just create in space, I think it's going to help the Buffalo offense a ton. So Ladd McConkey at 28 is my guy.
I like Ladd McConkey. I think he's a great player. I personally think I would have gone a different receiver just because when you look at the Buffalo Bills depth chart, I mean, you got your Khalil Shakirs, obviously Dalton Kincaid. He's going to make a lot of plays down the middle as well, but you don't really have a home run hitter unless you're counting Curtis Samuel, who's now getting into, I think, his 30s. If you count him as the home run hitter, fair enough. But I think if you went like an Adonai Mitchell, or even your boy Troy Franklin, even though I don't think he's a great player, I think they need a little bit more help when it comes to stretching the field and making those big plays. Whereas I think Ladd McConkey, he kind of fills similar shoes as Khalil Shakir and Dalton Kincaid.
So it comes down to those three for me. Like that's like really the three I was considering most. I mean, I had maybe Keon Coleman in there, but not really as much as the other three. And it just came down to just the guy who I think is the best playmaker of them all, the best with the ball in his hands. So they it might be better to have somebody stretch on field, and I don't think you can go wrong with going Franklin or AD Mitchell. But it's just I don't know. It's just kind of the on the spot decision there.
Yeah, I mean, I like the pick. I like Ladd a lot. I do think there's better receivers you could have gone with, but Ladd's a very solid guy. He's shifty. He's going to catch the ball. He's going to do all the things you need him to do. I like the pick a lot. Pick number 29, it belongs to the Detroit Lions, but it also belongs to me. And honestly, Chase, you know my thoughts on Jared Goff. So there's one quarterback that I'm decently higher on than everyone, and I need to go with him. Spencer Rattler at pick 29.
So who's your actual pick
Yes.
at pick 29?
Yes.
Okay, this is a joke. This is a joke. But
Yes.
I'm actually real. The
Oh.
real player I'm going with is a guy who I think is awesome, going to fit in the NFL real nicely, and I think he's going to contribute to the Lions in an awesome way, and that's going to be Kool-Aid McKinstry out of Alabama.
Yeah, I mean it's got to be kind of automatic with the way that board falls. I don't really see any other route worth going. The cornerback's such a large need, especially now with Cam Sutton out the door. It's kind of just that like everlasting need ever since Darius Slay's been out the door. And if I've got Kool-Aid at my number 3 corner, and I would love to have him on the Lions. It'd be funny for people saying, "Oh, I'll drink the Lions Kool-Aid," to have actually literally having a guy named Kool-Aid on the team. I think it'd be awesome. So if Cooper DeJean's not the dude, even though I have him ranked as my number 3 with Terry Arnold just above him, I honestly might still prefer Kool-Aid McKinstry just kind of for that fact. So I am a big fan of the pick. I'd be super excited.
Yeah, I like Kool-Aid. I've got him as a first round player. He's my cornerback number 5. I think he's going to be one of the most NFL ready corners coming out of this class. I'm just not so sure on where his ceiling is with the athleticism. So I like him, and I think it's solid value here at 29. And all the other guys that I like ahead of him are actually gone. So solid pick.
Yeah, and I mean, he was a real game changer in college too. Only targeted 40 times. He's a real press man corner, and I think that's exactly what the Lions need right now. They need a guy who's going to play right away because they are in a win now mode. They don't really need to go for the potential. They can get that guy who's going to be solid right out the gate.
Yep.
Yeah, and he is probably one of the safest bets of all time to be solid right out the gate. Like it reminds me of Patrick Surtain at a lower level.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Detroit picks Kool-Aid. Now pick number 30 goes to Baltimore. Your favorite team, Mike, and you get to pick for him.
Yeah, I don't like it, but I'm going to take my number 4 wide receiver off the board here, AD Mitchell. I think having AD Mitchell combined with Zay Flowers going into the future is going to be a really fun duo. Obviously, they lose OBJ in free agency, and then Rashad Bateman, he still hasn't turned into the player that I think a lot of us hoped for. So I'm going to go AD Mitchell.
Dude, their offense to be so broken. Like if they like with any of the receivers left on the board here, like there's a couple guys that I all really like, and
yeah,
like it's just be so broken. Like having Lamar, Mark Andrews, now you got Derrick Henry in the door, having Zay Flowers, like it's not fair. It's not fun. I'm obviously they're an AFC team, so they're not like somebody I'm sitting here conscious about every single day. But I know that if the Lions want to continue to kind of go on their runs to try to make a Super Bowl, there's some real damn good competition in the AFC, and the Ravens just stacking up that offense more and more. It's just a frustrating thought to even have. So it's a great pick. I mean, it works out really well, and I think Lamar's going to go on and put up even dumber numbers than he already has in the past. Just frustrating for the rest of the NFL.
Yeah, I like the pick a lot, but I also don't because it seems like all of these receivers who go to Baltimore just seem to not have good careers. And I want to
That's
see a
true.
good career out of A.D. Mitchell because I really like him as a prospect. So I like the pick as a talent wise. I don't like the location because I like to root for him somewhere else. But overall, from the GM perspective, it's a great pick. Okay. Then we'll move on to pick number 31. The San Francisco 49ers and Chase are on the clock.
Yeah, and like at this spot, I mean, I could go like a multitude of ways here, and I guess at the end of the day, if I had to lean one, it gets it's probably going on the D line, and you could argue a couple things. You could argue a pure edge. You could offer try to argue a pure D lineman, but I guess I'll just go with a guy that I think is a bit of a hybrid. That like we talked about him in our D line and I think we talked about on our interior D line episode, Mike, because that's where I asked to talk about him as, and that's Darius Robinson. I mean, he's just offers enough versatility, kind of play whatever. I think he can come in and make an impact day one. He's not necessarily my highest graded player left on the board, but kind of where the 49ers are, kind of what the needs are, and where that board is sitting. I mean, it's just kind of go with somebody that you like, someone that can kind of fill just wherever is needed type of role, and that's kind of what Darius Robinson is to me.
I absolutely love this pick because Chase, you nailed it with this pick. He is my number one defensive or not defensive lineman. He is my number one edge rusher on the board.
Oh boy.
So I love him. I love his mentality. I think he's awesome in the pass rush game. I think he lets the tackle choose the path and he will do the complete opposite, which is what I like about him. So really like the pick, especially that San Francisco defense. It's going to be real scary.
Yeah, I don't like Darius Robinson as much. I actually have him as a third round player, but he does have a lot of versatility with his size and athleticism. So I think that if there's going to be any team that can kind of mold him and make him work, maybe even similar to, a smaller Eric Armstead, it could potentially be the 49ers with Darius Robinson there. So I don't love the value because you know where he is for me, but overall, I think he could be molded.
100%. Now, the last pick in the draft, fortunately, belongs to me and the Kansas City Chiefs. And I hate to do this, but I mean, the receiving room right now is in a bit of trouble with the Chiefs. So what we're going to do, we're going to take a guy who I think is a stud. That's going to be Keon Coleman out of Florida State.
I like Keon Coleman. I know a lot of people aren't huge fans, especially after his combine workout, but I think this is a guy who can make plays, is going to be a guy who's going to be a red zone threat, and he's got strong hands. He's got a good vert. I think this is a guy who's just going to be a really solid player, potentially like an Anquan Bolden type.
Yeah, I mean, like Keon Coleman ended up coming out as a day two guy for me. I mean, it's not that I love his game, not that I hate his game. Like he's just I don't know. There are definitely guys I like more. I mean, second round pick, somebody that's still worthy of being drafted as someone that could be a number one or number two, but I think it'd be more fun, at least, to potentially see someone like, Xavier Worthy who's still on the board go there, or give Troy Franklin a shot. I know you guys might not like him, but at least he has the athletic ability that can kind of, give Patrick Mahomes some more opportunities to the deep ball that he hasn't really been able to have since Tyreek Hill's been gone. So I would like to see one of those guys more, so we can see more of those Patrick Mahomes 60-yard Hail Mary touchdowns. But it's not necessarily a terrible pick.
I think even like a Xavier Legette,
Mm-hmm.
I've, news came out today that the Panthers said if he's there at 33, they will be taking him. Such a inexperienced player that him potentially going to the Chiefs could be good for him as well. But I do see him a little bit more similar to Rashee Rice, and well, they might need to replace Rashee Rice, so we'll see.
Yeah, that is absolutely valid.
Yeah, man. Trust me, I know what that's like as a Raiders fan. But overall, that's going to do it for the mock draft, everyone. I want to thank you guys all coming out for listening. I want to thank you guys for coming on the show, WMP and my father. Thank you guys for coming out. It was a lot of fun.
Thanks for having me. My favorite pick was the Bengals taking Byron Murphy.
Great pick by a great GM. Sid, thanks for having me.
Yep, not a problem.
Appreciate
Yeah,
it. It's always
I've
fun
had, I've
listening to
had
you
better
guys.
times, I've had
You
worse
guys are
times.
really the experts here. You guys, it's good insight heading into the draft.
Absolutely. And hey, no Drew Sanders pick this year, so we're all good with that. So
We can go back if we want to add in. We go add a different Sanders in the first round. We can go, maybe mix in a little Jatavion Sanders to the Bengals. I know Mike would love that.
Yikes.
that's a rough one. But overall, I want to thank you guys for coming on, and make sure everyone like, subscribe, do all that nonsense, and then we will see you guys next time. Peace out.